gonna go back to August 5th, 1991. And these very apartments back in those days was called the Windjammer Apartments. And at these very apartments, a manager worked in that leasing office. Her name was Lena Forbes. She was only 21 years of age. Now, August 5th, 1991, somebody had seen an ad in the newspaper that there was a vacancy here. So the person drives to this location and parks up by the front of the leasing office. Now, it at this time now was past 9 a.m. and that's when the office opened. So they go to open the door to the leasing office and it's locked. So they see a neighbor whose apartment is right by the leasing office and they said, "Hey, do you know where the manager is?" And the neighbor, she says, "Well, yeah, Lena should be there." Now, Lena was pretty prompt about opening up the office. She had only been working here, I want to say, for about 6 months. And when she took the manager job here, she had hired a security guard because at that time they were having issues with riffraff from the beach coming over here and, you know, stealing batteries and radios, breaking into cars and stuff like that. So they said, "Yeah, let me go get the maintenance guy." So they go around and they find the maintenance guy. They said, "Hey, Lena's not in the office." So the maintenance guy, he goes to the office, he uses his key to open it, and he calls out Lena's name. He doesn't see anything. So this is very unlike Lena to not have opened up the office by now. So according to the story, the maintenance man, he goes ahead and goes up to her apartment. She lived in building E, apartment number 77. So he knocks on the door and there's no answer. He waits a couple minutes. Maybe she's taking a shower. Maybe she's getting dressed. Maybe she overslept. Maybe she's not there. So he's getting a little bit worried. So he knocks on the door again. He waits a couple minutes. Nothing. So the maintenance man, he decides to use his pass key to make his way into Lena's apartment. Now, I don't know if he should be doing that, or maybe he just felt some kind of weird way that he needed to go into the apartment, but he puts the key in, he opens the door, he calls out her name, nobody answers. He makes his way into the apartment, and in the bedroom, to his absolute and sheer horror, he sees Lena's body on the floor with a comforter partly on top of her. Her face and her head are covered in blood, and there's sprays of blood on the walls and in the windows. He immediately feels a panic sensation that quickly turns to nausea. He gets very weak-kneed. He makes a beeline to the quickest phone to call 911. This is the apartment right here where Lena used to live, where the murder took place. Within about 5 minutes, you have Huntington Beach Police Department coming to this apartment complex and coming up here to this very apartment. And when they go into the bedroom, they see what looks like a very, very violent murder. And the murder weapon, which was a claw hammer, was sitting next to her, and that was covered in her blood and brain matter. There was so much blood in this murder, there was even blood on the ceiling. I mean, there was a trail, a pool of blood that was under her that had leaked from the bedroom out into the living room hallway to the bathroom. Whoever committed this crime, more than likely, according to detectives, they're probably going to have some cuts or some defensive wounds on their hands, and it looks like Lena absolutely fought for her life, but unfortunately she lost that fight. This is a pretty quiet complex as far as I've been here, and you would think that no kind of crime would ever occur right here, but as I know and been to many crime scenes, evil absolutely is everywhere. Now immediately the detectives are gonna want to talk to the person that found Lena in that apartment, and that would have been the maintenance man. So they're asking him, when was the last time you seen or talked to Lena? And he said, the last time I talked to her was on the phone. It was Saturday night around 10 p.m. We had a normal conversation just about activities pertaining to the complex, about what work orders needed to be filled in what units. So they start talking to everybody that lives anywhere near her apartment. And the upstairs neighbor at the time, it was an elderly lady, that said, did you see or hear anything that, that was unusual, out of the ordinary? And she says, well, it was around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm in bed and I'm watching the late movie. And it was a horror movie and I'm watching it. And I hear like some kind of gasping, scream, kind of gurgling, weird sound. And she says, at first, I thought it was the movie because I don't have the best of hearing. So I'm continuing to watch the movie. And then I hear that noise again. It was almost like a ghastly, gurgling, screaming cry. Like it sounded like a woman's voice. And she said, I'm watching a horror movie and I'm just thinking like I'm starting to hear things. And she said that was around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then she says, as I was going to sleep, she goes, I heard it again. And she says, in hindsight, I should have called the police. But she said, I just, because I was watching a scary movie and I just thought my imagination was running crazy. I mean, the lady felt terrible. She wished that she would have called the police, but she just thought that it was the movie. She thought it was like she was hearing things or what have you. And later on they took Lena down to the coroner's office for autopsy, and the cause of death was actually asphyxiation. This bastard that committed this crime caved in half of her skull and face, and that still didn't kill her. What killed her was her being asphyxiated with a pillow. They weren't quite clear on if there was any kind of sexual assault in this case. They suspected there could have been, but they weren't 100% sure. But they are sure on this. They're looking for a person who had some kind of vengeance towards her, some kind of anger, some kind of unbridled anger, that somebody would do that to a poor, defenseless young woman. Now, as detectives were looking for clues and dusting for fingerprints, they did find a roll of duct tape which had been used to bound Lena's hands and feet. So they collected that into an evidence bag, and as they were looking around, they noticed that Lena had a jewelry box that was missing all of its contents. Some of her dressers in her bureau drawer were taken out and dumped onto the floor. So there is a robbery, there is a motive, but also, let's not forget, Lena is an apartment manager. So now they're gonna want to look for any kind of management records. Maybe was this a scorned tenant? Did she evict somebody recently and they got mad and they came back and killed her? Was this a lover or a boyfriend that she somehow scorned and they came back for revenge? So they noticed that she had an address book, and one of the names in the address book was highlighted. So they called that man, who I went out on a couple dates with Lena. So they immediately went down to go speak with him, and he was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Now, when they did a press conference on this story, they didn't leak out any of the details in which how Lena died, how she was murdered. Also, Lena's 1986 white four-door Hyundai was missing from the parking lot. And after they were talking to many of the different residents, they started getting a description of a possible suspect in this matter. So at least 5 or 6 people said that the night of her murder, around 10 o'clock, 10:30, they seen a man that did not belong in that complex. They'd never seen him before. And they describe him as a black male. They said he was about 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10", with a muscular build. They said he had very muscular arms and very muscular shoulders. He had short, dark hair, and it was cut very short, very neatly cut. He was wearing dark clothing, and this was a odd part of the description. They said that, and I don't know why they said that, but they said they believed that he had light-colored eyes. Now, you could have a suspect that is black and short and stocky, muscular, but a black guy that has blue or green eyes, that's going to be pretty unusual. This is the location where Nasir was apprehended by detectives, and I'm pretty certain that not only were the detectives confident that they had their man, being that his thumbprint was on the tape, but also him having cuts on his hands and his arms that had not quite healed yet. And I'm pretty sure Miss Forbes' family was relieved that he was apprehended at this very location. The prosecutor in this case was seeking the death penalty based on the sheer brutality in this murder. But the jurors decided, quite surprisingly enough to the courtroom, that they recommended life without parole for Nasir, and that is what he received. He currently is still alive, and he is still incarcerated, and he will die exactly where he's at. He will never, ever, ever get out. He will die in that prison a rotten old man. This is the final resting place of Lena Forbes. We remain together forever, cherished by eternal memories. And she's buried next to her mother, Linda. I want to read from an LA Times article what Linda said about her daughter during the penalty phase of the case when she had her chance to speak in the courtroom. Quote, "Words alone can't even describe the devastating trauma of losing a child. To hear the words, 'Your daughter has been murdered,' destroyed our world. My nightmare doesn't stop. My thoughts go on to visualize how this parasite bound her hands and mouth with duct tape, beat her, raped her violently. My God, this is not a person from the human race." Because I don't have children, I don't think I would ever be able to put myself in the position of a parent. I can only pretend to know the feeling, but ultimately I have never had a child, so I really, ultimately, I don't know. I can only guess, simply. But that's gotta be a parent's number one nightmare. And tragically, in this case, Linda had to live through it. Rest in peace to both Linda and Lena. Okay, guys, I am out of here. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.